Okay, now we're going to enter into the side of ourselves that we are not aware of, the side that we are not visible of, the side that is not present. So, part three, the good we are not aware of, the good that is not visible. Boy, if you can get this pulled together and you can honestly get those parts pulled out of the darkness and up into the light, and when I say the light, I mean that you're conscious of them. Okay, I'm not talking about good or bad here. I'm just saying if you can become conscious of the good you're doing that you're not aware of, conscious of the good you're doing that you're not aware of, if you can start seeing the good you're doing that's not visible, the good you're doing that's not present, the good you're not aware of, the good that's not visible, the good you're not conscious of. If you can get this side started moving in the right direction, like you know what, you're scooping out barely a scoop a day. And when I say a scoop, I'm talking the scoop is the size of your baby finger. If you're able to get that much moving every day in that direction, you are going to be really amazed on how much you're really actually doing. And I mean that. Because for whatever reason, this is not visible. This is not, you're not aware of it. You're not conscious of it. You are doing it. You absolutely are doing it. But you're just not seeing it. Whether you're selling it short, you're not giving yourself a chance to own it, or you don't even know it's good. Maybe it is a really good thing and you just don't even know it's good. You're just assuming that this is just something that needs to be done. Right? So there's a lot of reasons why it's not visible. There's a lot of reasons why you're not conscious of it. There's a lot of reasons why you're not aware of it. But you gotta take your victories. You gotta get your W's. And if you're saying, man, I'm able to pass the ball really good every time. Don't matter how much defense is on me, I'm able to pass that ball. If you don't view that as a good thing, or you don't see how it's a good thing, or you just, maybe no one ever told you it was a good thing. Maybe they just told you it's bare minimum. Or you might not even know you're doing it, right? So there's a lot of reasons why it's good, but you're not conscious of it. There's a lot of reasons why it's good, but it's not visible. You might not know you're doing it in the first place, or you do see that you're doing it, but you don't think it's good, or you don't think it's anything special. Well, it very well might be. So, you as a conscious and cohesive person, which is what I hope you'll be by the end of this series, well, closer to that, is when you got to find every ounce of good in you, and you got to pull it all up front, put it all on the table, look at every single one of them, categorize them, organize them, polish them, put them away nicely, pull them out nicely when you need them. You got to do that. Like, you got to get every ounce of good in yourself pulled together and categorized and organized and put away nicely, labeled nicely, so that when the time comes, you can harness it. So, like I said, there's a lot of reasons why you don't view it as good. You might not know you're doing it in the first place. It could just be some autopilot. It happens. It could be something along the lines of you don't think it's good. You think it's just some bare minimum. Well, if it's good, it's good, right? I mean, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck. Yeah, I know that's a really stupid phrase, but I think in this situation, I think it's a nice analogy to use, is that if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it must be a duck, even if you're not calling it a duck. So in this situation, if it looks good and it acts good and it sounds good, then it's probably good. So, there's that. Um, you know, First side is it's just some autopilot. You're not conscious you're doing it. Second side, you've never labeled it correctly. And the reason you never labeled it correctly, there's a lot of reasons. Maybe you never spent that much time trying to figure out if it's good or bad, or maybe no one ever told you it was good or bad. Well, you can tell yourself right now if it's good or bad. So, just you have to own the good you're doing, even if you're not presently aware of it. So, the third step in this equation. So, like I said, first step is the good you're aware of, the good you're conscious of, the good that's visible. Step 2 is going to be the bad you're aware of, the bad you're conscious of, the bad that's visible. And now step 3 is we're in the realm of not visible, not conscious, not aware. The good that you're not conscious of, the good that you're not aware of, the good that's not visible, but you're still doing it and it's still good. So what you got to do is that's a big pile. And so just imagine you got like 4 piles of paper in front of you, right? You got one pile, one stack of good. You got a second stack of bad. Now what you got to do is you got them 2 other stacks, like the stacks that have been hiding in the back the whole time. Okay? And you're saying, okay, now let me start going through that stack in the back. Let me start figuring out, let me start pulling this apart. Okay, what's good, what's bad? How do we categorize this? How do we organize this? If you start pulling items out of that stack and you say, oh, wow, that's actually really good. You know what? Let me go put that in the good stack. Or you start pulling it apart. You say, oh, you know what? That's actually really bad. Let me put that in the bad stack. So just imagine. So here's the thing is like you got like a big old room, right? You got a big old room, and you got one stack of good items, a second stack of bad items. But then you open up another door, and there's a second room, but it's completely dark, and everything is just chaos. Like everything's just floating around, everything's flying together. There's no structure, there's no order. You didn't even know that room was there in the first place, let alone if it's good or bad. So, like I said, you got your first room in front of you. You got your first room in front of you. The first room, the room that you're in right now, where there's plenty of lights, you got 2 stacks. One stack of good, one stack of bad. Good stack are your good habits, your good qualities. Bad stack is your bad habits, bad qualities. But then in the back of the room, you open up a second door, and there's a completely dark room that is completely cluttered, completely disorganized. But everything in there's got to be put into a stack, right? Everything's got to be put into a stack. So the goal is that room in the back that's dark and chaos. We want to get as much of that pulled out of that room as possible and pulled into the big room with the good light and the good table so that we can start sifting through it. Okay? That's what we're aiming for. That's what we're shooting for. Is that you got 2 rooms. You get one big room with good lights and a good table and a good file cabinet. We can get everything all organized, good and bad. There's a second room back there. It's completely dark and there's no structure. Everything's just flying around back there. There's stuff laying on the floor. The shelves are falling apart. Everything's just chaos. The goal is we want that room in the back, the dark room, we want that room as empty as possible. We want to pull as much out of that room as possible. We want, if possible, all of that to be sent up to the front room. If possible, we want that room back there completely empty, and we want all of it in the front room, all of it in the big room with the good lights and the good table and the good file cabinets so that we can come to terms with all of it. Okay? So that's where we're at here. Is you got 2 rooms. You got the big room with the good lights and the good table. You're already aware of everything that's happening there. But there's a room in the back with no lights and there's no organization. You can't keep it back there. Well, why? There's no lights back there. We're going to have to just pull it out and just get it in the front room. We got to get it where the windows are open. We got to pull it out. We got to pull it out of that room. Now, we might only be able to pull one item at a time, but we got to pull as much as we can out of that room. And then like I said, we got the lights on, we got the table clear. We can put one item on the table and we can decide, okay, is this good or is this bad? And then we can just file it away as necessary. So, like I said, that's going to be the goal with the series of this exercise is that there's two rooms. The room in the front of the house with the good lights and the good window and the good tables and the good file cabinets. We already know what's happening there. Everything's put away correctly. It's the room in the back with no lights and no cabinets and no shelves and no table. We want to pull as much of that room out. We want to pull as much of that room out of the back, and we want to put it up to the front, and we want to look at it, and we want to file it away where it belongs. So like I said, this is the good you're not aware of. So you went in the back, you grab 3-4 things, you put them on the table out front where there's plenty of light. You say, okay, believe it or not, all 3 of these that I've grabbed today are good. Well, number 1, now you know they're good, and number 2, now they're visible, now they're aware. So they're not invisible anymore. They're not unconscious anymore. Because when you pull the item out of the back and you put it on the table out front and you got the windows open out front, you got the lights on out front, number 1, you're visible of it. So it's no longer in the realm of invisibility or unconsciousness. It's no longer in that realm anymore. So that's the first step is already done, is that you know the item exists. The second thing you got to do is just say, okay, is this good or bad? And once you decide if it's good or bad, then you decide what pile it goes into. So hopefully that's going to make sense, and hopefully that's going to help. So like I said, that was part 3, the good you're not aware of. All right, I'll see you for part 4.